for criticising the election subcommittee on the basis that Ireland's participation in the World Cup ended on the 10th of June. That's almost 4 months ago. In that 4 months, as far as I know, very little has been done in relation to our national squad. There's been no debriefing session after the World Cup. There's been no review of the performance. And you've got a group of players out there who are desperately keen to make up the ground that Ireland has lost on the international front. And we've had 4 months after the World Cup in which very little has been done. And I would argue that it's now going to be just that little bit more difficult to make up the ground we've lost.
Can Reid, a quick reaction to that?
Well, I don't agree with all of that because, in fact, the Irish Union has been working along as fast as it can. I mean, the situation was that they followed their own bylaws. They have taken action beyond their bylaws, and we're waiting for this coach. On the question of the players, I would just simply say that already the Irish Union has met with its senior players, the players who were nominated by the squad. They're meeting with a group from the Irish Union, and they're meeting to decide what sort of contract, and it's working it out together by discussion. So we're talking to the top players in the land and to their representatives. Now, I think, again, better to do that than to say this is what we're going to do. When we've done that, we'll move on to consider what the guidelines we can offer the provinces and the clubs.
All right, we were talking about a new Irish coach, and a man very much in the frame for that job is Australian John Connolly. He's currently the coach at Old Belvedere. Well, here's what he thinks about the game going professional.
I personally think it's a good move. I said the situation is different in the Southern Hemisphere to what it is in the North, and I think the reason the Southern Hemisphere pushed for it were the problems they had, and the problem being rugby league. With the Super League coming in the Southern Hemisphere, with rugby league having a very strong foothold in Australia, getting stronger in New Zealand, and then heading towards South Africa, I think the administrators were faced with the problem. One, they would lose the back lines of the three national sides we just spoke about, or they get on the front foot and become proactive and keep the players. And so that was their decision. They chose to get on the front foot.
It has been argued that the Southern Hemisphere was ready for the move. In your opinion, is Irish rugby ready?
Well, I think I personally think Irish rugby could be one of the great benefits from the move. They've got a club, provincial and national situation in place. I think Irish rugby has got tremendous room for improvement in it.
Has it got the money, though?
Well, I'm not sure about that. But, I mean, we're not talking about clubs going professional. I think they're talking about really looking after the top panel of the national squad. And in doing that, hopefully you can put a lot more stringent requirements on them. Now, maybe some of the players that are playing now may not be able to make the adjust of the up-tempo and the requirements. So new players will take their place.
John Connolly, fairly happy about the future of Irish rugby. Ned Van Esbeck, do you share his optimism?
No, I don't share his optimism. The impetus, actually, for this whole movement has come from the Southern Hemisphere. Whereas I realise, and I do agree with David when he says that it's going to take it is a big cultural change that the IRFU will have to come to terms with. But Sid Miller, in fact, said that. I mean, saying it and doing it, of course, are two different things. But no, I don't. I don't think it's suitable for Irish rugby, and it saddens me greatly. I would probably be accused of being an ultra-conservative, and I've been accused and called worse. But it saddens me greatly to see the fabric of the game disappearing as we knew and loved it. I don't think it is suitable for Ireland. I don't think Ireland can sustain a professional game. And whether we like it or whether we don't, and I have no problem with the squad players being paid for the amount of time they put in. I have no problem whatever with that. I don't think we can sustain a professional game in this country. But the reality is that we will, in essence, be competing against full-time professionals.
Yeah.
That is hardly a level. It's not suitable for us. I don't think it's suitable for Scotland. I'm not sure that it's suitable all the way for England or for Wales. I sincerely hope that the game will prosper, but I have grave reservations, and I've seen the passing of the amateur era with great sadness.
Jimmy, what is the best way for Irish rugby to prosper?
I see this as a great opportunity, frankly, Jackie. We're talking about, we don't have a lot of money in Irish rugby. That's accepted by everybody. I don't see a professional club game. The clubs will go back, I'm certain, to just being the regional club, playing in their regional divisions. But I do see a second tier, that's the provincial level, being well supported by the Rugby Union, who must support their province financially, or the various provinces financially. And those players will then, 90 or thereabouts, will then go on to represent Ireland at international level. Now, if they're fully professional, then we will have a quality of competition that Ned's a lot worried about. I can understand why you're worried, Ned, but we could support 90 players, possibly 90 professional players who could play against the other professionals in the world.
The future of the game, a quick word.
Yeah, I would agree with part of that. What I would like to see coming out that the game, our top panel initially of players at national level, fair enough, to be paid. But it's going to take this time to evolve, eventually come back to our provincial sides. Now, I would agree with Jimmy. I think that our future is the strengthening of our provincial sides, and I think this move into Europe is going to be good.
So, Jim Neely, sorry, Ken.
Sorry, I just want to make it quite clear. It makes it sound as if nobody had thought of this before. Jimmy has often said it, Willie John has often said it, but the Irish Union, 12 years ago, before the last Triple Crown win, tried to set up this system, and the Irish clubs flatly refused to tolerate it. Now, the base of the game is the Irish club. So when the Union tried to set up a system of 3 inter-pros plus 3 other matches for each province, the clubs said no. So let's not say as if this was a novel idea. It may, as has just been said, become the necessary way forward. But we're going to have to convince the clubs of Ireland.
Let me just say that the clubs also said no to the All-Ireland League,
That's right.
Ken,
That's
as
right.
you so well know.
Yeah.
What they did say no, Ned, you may shake your head, but the All-Ireland League was refused by the clubs on the first count, and then it was forced in by the Rugby Union by invitation.
Right. Sorry, Ned.
Could I
very
come in
quick
there?
point.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, but the All-Ireland League was not refused by the clubs on the first count. If you cast your mind back, in fact, a majority of the clubs voted for the All-Ireland League. The announcement was made, ironically, in Galway under Des McKibben's presidency, and a majority of the clubs voted for the All-Ireland League, but the majority, the IRFU deemed that the majority wasn't of sufficient numerically, a sufficient mandate for them to go ahead with it. And that, in fact, in essence, is what happened. I think, if my memory serves me properly, the vote was 25 for it out of 47, 2 abstentions, 3 reservations, and the rest against.
Let me come to the audience. Jim Neely, will the All-Ireland League, will it disappear in this new era?
Well, I think at the moment we've got the All-Ireland League for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then it is going to disappear. We're not going to see it again for another 4 months, which to me is a ludicrous situation. You've got club coaches who are trying to work with guys for 5 or 6 weeks. They then don't see them again for about 4 months. I think one of the problems is the whole restructuring of the season, which doesn't lend itself to a natural progression towards the national side. And I think most people, club coaches, provincial coaches, the national coach, whoever he may well be, would like to see the All-Ireland League games got out of the way, then the representative games, including the European games, and then let the national coach after Christmas, and if it means moving the Five Nations Championship back to, say, March or April, which would be much more sensible, that's a proper structure to the season, so you get a natural progression. Alas, that hasn't happened, and the way the league now is in 2 particular sections, talk to any club coach, he'll say it's a damn nonsense.
But nevertheless, despite what Jim says, the Irish Union did talk to the clubs, and the structure this year is the one requested by the Irish clubs taking part in the Irish League. We offered them the whole league in one fell swoop, and the Irish clubs said, no, we're not strong enough to play that number of matches, split it. But don't split it in too many parts, split it in 2. Now, you know, we hear what people want, but the people in the clubs said, we've got what we want. Now, I can tell you that last night, or the night before in Dublin, there was another gang of clubs meeting to say we don't like what we've got. The Irish Union exists for the benefit of its clubs, but it's very hard to give benefits to some people in this country, I can tell you.
Right, there seems to be some difference of opinion. Right, let's get a player's opinion. I've already mentioned Jonathan Bell at the top of the programme, and as a young international player, he can look forward to reaping the financial rewards. Jonathan joined us earlier from Nottingham. Jonathan, as a top young player, you must be fairly well pleased with this development, the game going professional.
Yeah, well, obviously it's nice to know that there's some reward coming into the game now. It's difficult, although it's going to cause a lot of problems, I reckon, back in Ireland. Club scene in Ireland, unfortunately, won't be able to, well, in my opinion, finance the move to professionalism, and I don't think this year anyway, the interprovincial level, there'll be no money in it, only at national level. So It's got its benefits, and it's there's going to be some problems with it.
Do you agree with pay for play in rugby union?
Pay for play is it's difficult to say. I think you know, you get problems of players who are injured, being dropped, different things. So actually, paying for play, it's difficult to sort of hit the nail on the head. But I think it certainly will. Increase the competition, as I said. But
yeah. Now, you were lured away to Northampton. What were, and indeed, what are the perks for you?
Well, I basically came to Northampton because I was studying at Loughborough University. The move for me was a logical one in that it made it easier for me. Last year I was travelling back and forward to Ballymena to play league games week in, week out, which I found very difficult, including as well the Ulster games and then the Ireland games and the World Cup as well.
So as a club, they've looked after you, have they?
They have looked after me very well. They've been very good, and you know, it's a very good club, very professional in its approach to the game and to the setup. The whole structure of the club is very well organised, and Ian McGeechan has everything laid out to plan. So I mean, Northampton is one of the top clubs in England at the minute, although they're in the second division. As far as contracts and things are concerned, we haven't really stepped into that setup yet. That's being discussed, but they certainly, as far as their organisation and structure is concerned, they're very much one of the top clubs.
And finally, you've been turning down offers left, right, and centre from rugby league sides. The fact that Rugby Union has gone professional, has that helped or made that decision for you?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'd be telling a lie if money wasn't in my thoughts at the time of going to rugby league, obviously, but definitely with the move to professionalism, it's sort of reinforced that I made the correct decision, and I'm happy that I'm playing rugby union. It's a game I love to play, and I'm going to continue playing it for the next so many years.
Jonathan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Jonathan Bell. Well, Jonathan, like Neil Doak and Roger Wilson, who are in our audience this evening, they're all part of the younger brigade who should benefit in the years ahead. But what about one of the elder statesmen of the Irish side, lock forward Neil Francis? What does he think?
It was inevitable. I was surprised with the speed in which it actually happened. I thought maybe I'd have retired 3 or 4 years before it happened, but it's happened now, and I think just get on with it.
You say the retirement's 3 or 4 years down the line. Has it come too late for you?
Oh no, I mean, well, I think the RFU have, they have made a decision to award contracts to the players. So I mean, I envisage being around for the next 2 or 3 years at least. So we'll see what happens.
If the right offer came along, would you consider giving up your job?
Oh no, under no circumstances. I mean, I think what has happened there is that the RFU are compensating their players for their time and effort. The players, the international players, the top 30 players are really the people that generate the revenues that the RFU bring in from the international games, and really for their time and effort, they're just being compensated for what they put up with.
What is the general feeling among the national team, among your comrades there?
Well, there's a players' committee there, which Brendan Mullen and Philip Danaher are sort of largely involved in, and I think there'll be a meeting in October sometime, and a lot of the players now are ringing around each other, sort of saying, what's happening. Nobody seems to know. So, I mean, there's a general price of about £20,000, which everybody seems to have caught on to, but until the players' representatives and the union can sit down and negotiate what both sides feel is a correct price, then everybody's just guessing at the moment.
Well, let's have a word with Roger Wilson and Neil Doak. Roger, what is it you're looking from the game? Are you necessarily looking for money?
No, I wouldn't say no initially money. I mean, it's going to be very hard. I mean, I'm not at the top level basically at the moment of the rugby, so I mean, at the moment in the club game in Ulster, there's definitely no money for a good few years to come anyway. In the provincial, I'm not too sure. I mean, maybe a couple of years' time there will be, as you say, money for play. Yeah. But again, it's hard for me again what type of commitment they're going to have to put for this money to play, and it'll be interesting to see,
Neil, is the money an added incentive, motivation for you to get to the top?
Obviously, it's going to be an added incentive for everybody. There's going to be, with the new provincial league, European league, there's going to be a lot of more pressure on the players, and they're going to be asked to commit a lot of time to the game, and it's going to be difficult.
Would you